Dear brothers, good morning, fellas. I had a meeting a couple days ago with a client of mine who I've had struggles with in the past. They've been unresponsive, they've been a little bit combative with how they've responded to my messages or my thoughts on their programming or what have you. But nonetheless, they have been a client of mine now for probably 5 years. And they've been diligent. They pay their bill. You know, they do, for the most part, do the things that I tell them to do, but they just have somewhat of an abrasive feel to them. Now, a lot of you know that I work in a very remote capacity, so I don't see these people for the most part face to face, but people that are local where I live, I do some of their evaluations where we are. And so a couple of days ago I had this meeting, and I just had this kind of sense of, I'm going to use the word dread. Like I really just didn't want to go to this meeting. It was an evaluation, but I was just like, they can be combative. They can be a little bit abrasive. Like I said, like they think they know a lot or they know it all and what have you. And I was setting up this expectation that this was going to suck in some capacity. And it was making me a little bit anxious. Now it feels silly, but at the moment I was just like, I just don't want to do this. And maybe many of you have had situations where you're like, I'm just not in the mood to do this right now. I don't want to have to deal with this person or whatever. So anyways, I get to this eval, pull in, get back there, walk in, and she greets me with this big smile. Big smile. Hey, how are you? So great to see you. So excited for today. Really been making some great strides. Big golfer. Making some great strides in my golf game. And, my putting has been a lot better. I feel so much stronger, shooting some low scores, which I knew from what had been recorded. But just this very happy-go-lucky personality. And it's amazing to me how quickly my instant mood was altered. I was like, yeah, this is great. I'm stoked about this. And then all of a sudden I was excited to be there. And my whole point to that very little story, which may seem silly, is that I believe wholeheartedly the idea that Seneca always had, which is that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And that is the truth. Our, kind of pervasive thoughts and what we think is going to happen or what happens in the future is what gives us that, or can give us that anxiety if we allow it. And that can be where we suffer. Honest to goodness, I had a good couple of hours that morning where I was like, I really don't want to go do this today. And it's not like I'm an unproductive human being, but for some reason I was just like, I'm not into this. And I kept thinking that, she was going to be talking back to me and being like, I don't like this. I don't like that. I want to change this. I want to change that. And I literally got the complete opposite. I got somebody who was grateful, kind, was excited about what was happening in my own life, was really excited about continuing to improve their golf game. And I had literally convinced myself that morning that, screw this lady. I don't feel like doing this. And so my message, fellas, is that don't be making those kind of judgments prior to going to do whatever it ends up being. There is a chance that maybe I could have gone in there and she was abrasive and rude and disrespectful or opinionated about everything under the sun and just annoying to me. It could have happened. And I do think there is something to preparing for the worst and hoping for the best, if you will. However, I spent an entire morning, or at least a couple of hours anyways, suffering in my imagination over something that I couldn't guarantee was going to happen at all. And all of you have had situations where that's the case, where you're unsure what's going to happen in the future. Maybe you went for a job interview. Maybe you're uncertain what somebody thinks about you. You're uncertain what your boss thinks about you. You're like, I have no idea if these guys actually like what I'm doing. All of us have experienced that in some capacity. For those of you that maybe are in the dating world, it's like, I have no idea what this girl thinks about me. And we suffer when we don't know something, when the world in front of us has this cloudy haze over it and we can't see past that. That is where we start to feel that anxiety trickle in. And I've been very, very upfront on this podcast about where I feel about anxiety. And the other day, I just didn't do a good job of putting it at the cross, praying about it, and then letting it be there. But I was making too many judgments too early. And then I got the complete opposite response when I got into the room. And so, I think that there's like a Mark Twain quote, says something along the lines of, I've experienced a lot of tragedy in my life, and at least half of it has actually happened. Most of the big tragedies in our life, most of the big difficulties and struggles are things that we deal with mentally that never actually come to fruition. And so think on that as you go through, especially as you go through the rest of this week. And when you have those situations, you're at work and you're like, screw this meeting. This is going to suck. And you know what? Maybe it is going to be an unfortunate little event, but why are we suffering before it's even happened? Prepare for it, pray about it, be like, hey, God, I'm anxious about this. I'm putting it at your feet. Help me to, be strong and to prioritize what's effective and know that at the end of the day, everything is in your hands. Boom. There's almost nothing that's more anxiety reducing than that. But no matter what, I would say, like, when you have those things happen, write them down, be like, hey, I've got like a little notepad I've got several notepads on this desk, I guess. But, when I have stuff like that pop up, I actually usually do write it down. It's funny that a couple of days ago I didn't do that, and it's reminding me of it now. I'm notorious for just jotting down like, hey, I'm stressed about X right now. I'm anxious about X right now. And it's almost like when you write it down, it's like letting it go out of your body. One of the reasons why I like journaling so much. But consider those things this week, fellas. When you have those moments where you're starting to feel that suffering that's occurring in your imagination, ask yourself, like, do I need to be doing this right now? Is this necessary? Is this helping me? Write it down. Pray about it. Because I think a lot of our lives are probably made far more difficult by the fact that we just can't handle these, thoughts as they come in and out of our heads. And I think if we have kind of a game plan when we're like, I don't want to do this, I'm not interested in doing this today, and you go, hey, I'm having these anxious thoughts. Write it down, pray about it, and then just see where that takes you. Let's just start there. And I think you'll probably notice that is a highly effective way to improve your life and just improve your interactions with humans. And I can tell you that it's exactly how I feel after the other day. And it was just a good reminder that you can't judge something that hasn't happened yet. And so, prepare for certain things. Don't be willy-nilly like the world is just going to be sunshine and rainbows all the time. However, understand that you can't control a lot of those things, and the suffering that you're experiencing is self-created. And so you need to handle that effectively, independently, or at the very least, you need to be handling it with the help of God and using your journal and reading, etc. Use your spouse. That's all of the above. Gents, have a phenomenal Wednesday. I love you all. God bless. Be strong. Let's get after it this week. We'll see you, boys.